I said it like I was doing him a favor. Like I was being honest. Like I was protecting him from embarrassment. But the truth is, I was weaponizing my parents' approval because it was the sharpest thing I had in the room. And I wanted to win the argument more than I wanted to protect my marriage. It happened on a Sunday, the kind of Sunday that's supposed to be calm. Laundry humming, football in the background, groceries on the counter. My husband, Dev, was unloading bags while I stood at the island scrolling my mom's texts that always managed to sound polite and insulting at the same time. Mom, dinner was nice. Dev seems sweet. You know we just want what's best for you. Translation: he's not impressive enough. You could do better. Dev looked up and smiled like he could feel the tension, but didn't want to poke it. Everything okay? I should have said yes. Instead, I let the bitterness that had been marinating for months spill out. They're just worried, I muttered. Dev's eyebrows pinched slightly. Worried about what? I shrugged. About us. About you. About stability. Dev set a bag down, calm. They don't think I'm stable? Don't do that, I said quickly. You know what I mean. He leaned against the counter, careful but direct. Tell me what you mean. And that's where I made my first mistake. I treated his request for clarity like pressure. Like he was cornering me. Like I had to defend myself. I exhaled dramatically. They just don't respect you, Dev. Silence. He didn't move. Didn't react like I expected. He just stared at me like I'd said something in a language he didn't know. I tried to soften it with a laugh. My favorite coward move. I'm not saying it's fair. It's just how they are. Dev's voice stayed quiet. Why are you telling me this right now? Because it's the truth, I snapped. And honestly, it's embarrassing. His jaw tightened once. Embarrassing for who? For me, I said, without thinking. For us. His eyes held mine. So, your parents' respect is your definition of us? I crossed my arms, already committed to being awful. I mean, Dev, look at it from their perspective. My dad built a company. My mom's side is all doctors. And you're a project manager, he finished calm. I rolled my eyes. Exactly. They think you should be making more by now. Dev nodded slowly, like he was logging information. And what do you think? I hesitated. Just a beat. It was enough. Dev's expression didn't change, but something in his posture did. Like he stopped leaning into me and started standing on his own. I think you're taking it too personally, I said, rushing to regain control. You're always so sensitive about my family. Dev's mouth twitched. Not a smile, not anger. Something emptier. You just told me your parents don't respect me and you're embarrassed. That's not me taking it personally. That's you saying it personally. I felt heat climb my neck. Why can't you just accept it and try harder? Dev stared at me. Try harder for what? For their approval. For our future. I corrected, but it sounded fake even to me. Dev looked down at the groceries still on the counter. Apples, pasta, the things we bought together like we were building something. Then he looked back up and said, very evenly, I've been trying. I've been building. I've been showing up. I scoffed. Okay, and you just told me it's not enough, he said. Not for your parents. And apparently not for you. I didn't respond like an adult. I responded like someone addicted to winning. I said the sentence that detonated everything. If my parents don't respect you, neither should I. The kitchen went so quiet I could hear the refrigerator cycle. Dev blinked once. Then he nodded slow. Okay, he said. And he turned, walked down the hallway, and went into our bedroom.
No yelling. No pleading. No dramatic slam.
Just footsteps. I stood at the island with my arms crossed, heart pounding, waiting for him to come back and argue. To demand reassurance. To do the emotional labor of saving us. Instead, he came back holding a duffel bag. My stomach dropped. What are you doing? Dev's voice was calm in a way that made me feel small. Leaving. I laughed like it was ridiculous. Dev, stop. We're just talking. He zipped the bag.
No.
You were talking. I was listening. Are you seriously doing this over one comment? I snapped. He looked at me, eyes steady. It wasn't one comment. It was a belief. I swallowed hard. You're overreacting. Dev's gaze didn't flinch.
I'm reacting appropriately.
He walked to the entryway and grabbed his keys from the bowl. Then he paused and looked at me like he was giving me one last chance to be human. Do you actually want to be married to me? He asked. That question should have humbled me. Instead, my pride kept driving. I want to be married to someone my family respects, I said. Dev nodded like the answer confirmed a diagnosis. Okay. He opened the door. Panic finally hit. Where are you going? Dev turned back. My brother's. And tomorrow I'll call a lawyer. My throat tightened. You can't just decide that. He looked at me with a calm I didn't deserve. You just decided you don't respect me. That's the marriage. Without respect, it's paperwork. Then he stepped out and closed the door gently behind him. The gentleness was what wrecked me, because it meant this wasn't a tantrum. This was a decision. I sat there in the quiet house, staring at the groceries he'd been unloading, like the evidence of a life we were building 5 minutes ago. I texted him immediately. Me, come back. We need to talk. No response. Me, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it like that. Still nothing. I called. Straight to voicemail. I spent 2 hours pacing, oscillating between panic and anger, because that's what people do when consequences show up faster than expected. I told myself he was being dramatic. I told myself he was trying to scare me. I told myself he'd cool down and come home. Then my mom called. Of course she did. She always has a sixth sense for chaos. What's wrong? She asked. You sound weird. And I. Because I'm apparently incapable of keeping my own mess private. Said, Dev left. My mom inhaled sharply. Left where? Left, I repeated. Like, left. There was a pause. Then she said carefully, why? I heard myself say it out loud and felt sick, because I told him you and Dad don't respect him. My mom clicked her tongue like I'd spilled wine on a rug. Well, honey, that wasn't smart. Not because it was cruel. Because it was tactically stupid. That's how my mom does morality. He's being childish, I said, trying to regain my dignity. It's just feedback. My mom went quiet for a moment, then said something that hit like a slap. If a man is good enough to marry you, he's good enough to respect. If you don't, you lose him. I froze. My mother, who had planted half the poison, was telling me I'd gone too far. That's when I realized I'd miscalculated. My parents didn't want Dev gone. They wanted Dev beneath them. And I tried to keep both, my marriage and my parents' superiority. Dev refused to play that role. He didn't come home that night. I barely slept. I kept replaying the moment, looking for the exact second I could rewind and choose differently. Not because I suddenly had morals, because I suddenly had fear. The next morning he emailed me. Not texted. Emailed. Like a coworker. Subject line. Next steps. It was short. He'd be staying with his brother for now. He wanted separation immediately. He'd cover his half of the bills for 60 days while we sorted logistics. He requested we communicate in writing. The last line was the one that crushed me. Please don't involve your parents in our marriage. They've already had enough influence. I called him again. He finally answered. Hi, he said, voice neutral. Dev, please. I started already crying. I didn't mean it. I was frustrated. My parents get in my head. Dev cut in softly. That's the problem. You let them. I can fix it, I insisted. I'll talk to them. I'll set boundaries. Dev exhaled slowly. You're offering boundaries now because you're scared. Where were those boundaries when you were embarrassed by me? I swallowed hard. I love you. Dev was quiet for a beat. Then he said, I believe you love what I provide. I don't think you respect who I am. That sentence landed like a verdict. I do respect you, I whispered. Dev's voice stayed calm. You told me you don't. You said it twice. You escalated it. You meant it. I was angry. I said, desperate. Dev replied, anger doesn't create new beliefs. It reveals them. Then he said the line I still hear in my head, I'm not competing with your parents for a spot in my own marriage. And he hung up. 2 weeks later, I saw him for the first time since he left. Not at home. At my parents' house. That's the part that felt unreal. I pulled into their driveway to talk, determined to reclaim control, and saw Dev's car already there. My stomach dropped. I walked inside and found him in the living room, sitting upright on my parents' couch like it was a business meeting. My dad was there too, oddly quiet. My mom was hovering with tea like hospitality could glue the situation back together. Dev stood when he saw me, polite. Hey. I stared at him. Why are you here? Dev looked at my parents, then back at me. Because I wanted to thank them. My dad's eyebrows lifted. Thank. Dev nodded calmly. For being honest about how they see me. I felt my chest tighten. Dev. He held up a hand. Not aggressive, just a boundary. I'm not here to argue. I'm here to close the loop. Then he turned to my dad. I respect that you have standards, Dev said. And I respect that you want the best for your daughter. But I'm not staying in a marriage where my value is measured by your approval. My mom's eyes were shiny. Dev, we didn't mean. He smiled gently. I'm sure you didn't mean harm. But harm still happened. Then he turned to me. I filed, he said calmly. You'll be served next week. I felt dizzy. You're really doing this? Dev nodded. Yes. I looked at my parents like they'd help, like they'd fix it. My dad finally spoke, voice low. Dev, you're a good man. This got out of hand. Dev nodded respectfully. It did. And then, this is the part that made me feel sick. He said, I hope you encourage her next time not to use your respect as a weapon. It ruins things. He picked up his keys. Before he left, he looked at me one last time. I loved you, he said. But I'm not staying where I'm tolerated. Then he walked out.
No yelling. No chaos. No messy revenge.
Just a man choosing himself with clean hands. The divorce moved fast. Not because he was rushing. Because he was ready. Within months, Dev had a new apartment, a promotion, and a calm glow that I used to think meant he wasn't passionate enough. Now I recognize it for what it is. Peace. And I stayed exactly where I belonged. Back in my parents' orbit, explaining to relatives why the marriage didn't work out, while my mom tried to spin it into something less embarrassing. The guy wins here in the most humiliating way possible. He wins by leaving quietly, by refusing to negotiate for respect, by treating my contempt as disqualifying, not fixable. And I learned the hard way that you don't get to outsource your backbone to your parents and still call yourself a partner. My remarks. Hey guys, thanks for watching. She used her parents' approval as leverage and crossed the line into contempt. They don't respect you, neither should I. That's not communication. That's character assassination. He won by doing what mature men do. He set boundaries, removed himself, handled logistics cleanly, and filed without drama. The lesson is simple. If you invite your parents into your marriage as judges, don't be shocked when your spouse refuses to stay on trial. Subscribe for more grounded stories tomorrow.